Didn't learn. Dragon fruit and main liquids don't work. Liquid inside dragon fruit, that's fine. Any outside liquid in my stomach just wants to kill me. Oh god. I would not be surprised if my stomach commits kill. Hammer OP. I like how that was such wait, I just realized it was so fucking delayed. You know what, actually, this actually suits my armor right. Well, to be fair, they are from the same DLC. What swords am I able to get access to? Why can I? That takes willpower as well? Let me try something. I want to add willpower. That would make me be able to use this greatsword. You fucking serious? Yeah, but the fatal flaw, how this thing swings, is exactly why I refuse to use it. And it's 10 times heavier than my normal sword. So. Is this everything I've gotten from just farming? check if there's any enemies. I don't know if I killed any. But this is the one I can kill everything on. Oh yeah, this would be because I just entered the box. What?
Hold on, never mind.
It's one of the very rare occasions I actually get a drop from every one of them. this game backcasting me? Like, seriously, all this game wants to do is backhand me multiple times. Getting tons of gears on this. Old raw material. Wait, it's only into my game? Oh no, I was just seeing him.
Greetings. If you have any materials from the old world, I can give you valuables in exchange. Don't hesitate to come back if you need anything.
You know that one gun that you like that spends your money as bullets?
Yes.
Well, there's an opposite of that gun. It shoots regular bullets and it doesn't spend your money. But if you kill something with it, it gives you extra money.
That sounds stupid.
But if you pick up the cash from those enemies, it gives it a damage buff, fire rate buff, and I believe...
Yeah, but I don't need extra money. That's the problem.
I know, but
I have too much.
I know, but that's why it's exclusive to the Vault card. Or Vault cards. 26.
What actor was I going for again? Yeah, that's who it was.
Nito thinks even a relic's worth more than specimens to respect. Whatever he plans, we'll catch him this time. All right? Getting.
Oh God, no.
What?
Okay, I'm talking to an NPC. I'm just spamming the give valuables item to them, and it sounds like they're saying something completely wrong. Oh my God, no! Why? Why? Okay, is it just me, or when you high pitch someone's voice and just stop it at certain dialogue repeatedly, is it just me, or does it sound like they're saying some weird shit sometimes?
Yes.
Sound like this NPC was making a sexual joke when I was talking to him. I'm not even shitting you. I wish I was. When NPCs learn jokes, that's when you need to worry. Especially if it's not programmed into them. That's 3 of you.
Panicking won't change the situation.
Mia's Iker, because I don't know if I exhausted all of hers in her inventory. If I didn't, I'm gonna have to.
Knowing this, we cannot.
Yeah, I did. Okay, good.
We will put a stop to this.
Oh God, no! Don't play that. Oh god. Without I've seen shit, I would claim that shit. The reaction is within respectable parameters. Expectable parameters. Good God. You don't piss off a bull and keep pissing it off. You just stop when you're at.
Tanya, are you officially going insane?
What?
Why?
I didn't even hear what you said, so.
Why? I'm messing with you.
What did you actually say?
Said what?
No, I heard you say something before that.
Oh, I said you're officially going insane.
I'm already insane. What the fuck do you think? You can't go further into insanity unless you have somewhat of sanity.
I've seen otherwise.
I don't want to know what you've seen.
What?
Don't worry about it. You're enjoying that way too much. Again, you're enjoying that way too They even know, jeez. Did they wait till they realize who it is? It's bad when the Yeah, no. What?
Tomorrow evening, you want to do the Dark Souls?
Leave me alone.
Farming?
Go!
I just asked a question. Sato.
Go!
Take as hard as you can.
Go! You don't fucking drop it! And stop talking about it!
Stop. Where's Spike for you there on
The bipolar trout I've ever seen.
Has the attitude of a dog.
No bipolar child. Aw.
Alright, now I've possibly made myself good. Oh no.
What?
I finally made
You're
myself.
not even that loud.
Sorry.
I speak.
Alright. So I finally made my Zane good.
Good for you. Bloodborne Deku.
So I had something else planned. I already had recorded a video, and I was
No!
a lot.
What the hell is that? Oh no! What the fuck? Okay, no. No. I may have just found one of the most cursed images I've ever seen. What the fuck? Who covers their entire head in shaving cream?
In that video, I was beating myself to it. Yeah, I fucked up. I can't even open it in the app I used to.
You know, your voice is way too cursed. Bloodborne Hunter Deku.
Dynasty, the complete retelling of the story of the Hive and the Witch Queen Savathun. The project is bigger than anything we've done on the channel before, and we're hoping to launch just before the release of the Witch Queen expansion next year. The production scale and budget for this is bigger than anything we've ever done before. We have an incredibly special team of very talented individuals helping to create this project, and not only do I think it'll be the best content that we've ever released on the channel, but it'll bring us to a very special place. Not only in terms of the story of Destiny, but also in terms of my own personal journey as a content creator covering the lore of this universe. The Books of Sorrow was the first big Destiny lore project that I ever made. We've made a lot of leaps and bounds on the channel since then, and for years now we've been incrementally building with each big project to make the next best thing. We've been looking for a time when we're ready to take the next giant leap. And with Dynasty, I think it's fair to say that here and now, we're ready.
That is a cool fucking Dynasty Development Diary 1 Vert the Vision.
Dynasty is going to be the first really big lore project in which we're telling the stories of Destiny's lore in part with 3D full motion animation. And whilst most of the story is still going to be told through our artwork, there are certain key moments in the project and the story and certain scenes in which it's really important that we do actually animate those just to tell the real gravity of the story and to portray that particular moment as best we can. These moments really are all about taking the story that's been told through the grimoire and through the lore and bringing it to life in a medium that's as close to what players might see in-game as possible. So the idea is to make it indistinguishable from a cutscene you actually see in Destiny and to try and represent that lore as accurately as possible. To do this, we needed a team of artists and animators that not only understood the core themes of Destiny, but also the design language of Hive and the technical skills needed to bring all these different characters, some of which have never been seen in the lore, to life. Our key artist in this team is Metalworks, whose art style was incredibly fitting for the project because it was something that could very closely emulate what we actually see in-game. And as a result, even these moments with art that aren't full motion animation are going to look spectacular and very close to what you'd actually find if you were playing Destiny 2. Our core animation team includes Drexus Animations, who I've worked with before on the complete story of the Darkness video, and Cinema Motions, but there are a ton more supporting individuals behind the scenes that are responsible for all aspects of the project. They've done some incredible work by not only helping to animate and rig the different characters in the story, but also by helping to actually create those characters from scratch in some cases. One of the really big challenges of this project was in fact the characters that I just mentioned. We've seen Oryx in game, we've killed Oryx in the Peaceful Raid, and so we kind of have an idea of what Oryx would have looked like in this story. But ultimately, Savathun's appearance and Shibu Arat's appearance, for that matter, are big question marks, and they don't have any models in game. So with that in mind, we needed to create models for the other two thus far unseen Hive gods. Now, I have no doubt that at some point in the future, Bungie is going to reveal the appearance for Savathun and maybe for Shibu Arat. But in the meantime, we had to come up with our own interpretations for how these Hive gods might look. Whilst I have no doubt that Bungie's design is going to be spectacular, and whilst I have almost no doubt that their designs are probably going to be better, this hopefully is something memorable, and hopefully we've done justice to these really fantastic characters. For both designs, there was a lot of inspiration that came from the lore and what we knew about each of the gods. And we even went as far as to sit down and discuss how the dynamics of each god might be expressed through their appearance. She-Ra, for example, had to have a pretty fantastic sword, and so her design came with its own unique sword. We also looked at the materials that the Hive used, and we settled on the note of Hadium, which is this metal that you find on board the Dreadnought, and it's got unique properties that allow it to absorb the light or dark energy of whatever's in close proximity to it. In the Taken King expansion, we make this into swords that we use, such as Razelighter and Boltcaster. But we then sat there and said, why wouldn't Xivu actually have all of her armor with this stuff? And if she did, wouldn't it sort of be bursting with dark power? So a lot of the design you can see is made up of this dark armor, but it's also cracks beneath her armor that show this red-hot interior, which is expressed through these areas of great luminance and how the armor is almost outgrowing itself and bulging beyond its original shape and form. Cracks beneath the armor sort of start to show and form themselves, and there's real power and menace that seems as though it's just under the surface, barely contained. The Wrathborn, which we saw in the Season of the Hunt, are really some of the only troops of Xivu's that we've actually seen in game. And for the most part, they are just very similar to the Hive and Fallen that we see in game typically, just with some different accents and notes. And it's these accents that we wanted to pick up on. So in particular, you've got their green fire and their chains. And the chains are really something that we wanted to pull from the Wrathborn and incorporate into She-Ra's design. So you can see that her sword and her armor are covered in chains, and that is almost indicative of the fact that if these chains were broken, they would unleash the monster that's been bound beneath them. It's one of these things that if these chains weren't here, She-Ra would literally be able to detonate out of her own form and out of her own armor. But we also decided to take what was very clearly Xivu's best defining feature in this design from a lot of other previous examples of Hive that canonically might have actually gotten that kind of design as a referential point from her. So in particular, of course, it's that Rhino-esque helmet that you see on the War Priest and the High Celebrant. Both of them have this jaw that's just full of fangs, and that's really quite distinctive for the entire design. And so what we decided to do was basically take that helmet, and of course it's in Xivu's armor, but we also decided to enhance its proportions. Various different proportions and parts of the helmet are taller and longer and bolder. But also, it's got spikes on the top that sort of work their way into a very rudimentary crown. Ultimately, using these aspects of the She-Ra armor's capability as a war is one of the most ferocious of the three Hive gods. For Savathun's design, we initially took inspiration from the fact that originally she was meant to transform into what's known as the Mother Moon. And so the Broodmother in an arm was a blue top stripe, and the Hive was generally were really considered a template for our design. Network came up with some fantastic initial sketches, and a lot of these early designs, which were made something like 4 or 5 months ago by this point, needed to tailor towards sort of unspoken elegance that really fills Savathun's character with a lot of deadly poise. She doesn't fight with weapons all the time. More often than not, she'll fight with words and ideas and with trickery. And so it's a much more sophisticated manifestation of the Hive's power. As a result, we wanted her design to really reflect that she's a lot less up-armored and that some parts of her body, like her fingers, for example, have no armor whatsoever, given that it demonstrates that she gets a lot more use out of being more dexterous and precise in every way. She sort of takes after Warlock palettes in this sense, where she has a very select amount of armor, and oftentimes you'll see that that armor recedes instead into cloth and arcane symbols that sort of just fill all the different parts of her armor. We wanted to have Savathun's visual design mimic her symbol and her rune somewhat closely, and so we essentially took that rune that you can find of hers that's on the bottom of the Crown of Sorrow, and her rune from the Season of Arrivals, and a few other sources, and we almost used those as a sort of base template for the shape of Savathun's head as well as Savathun's body generally. And in order to go ahead and craft this overall, initially Metaworks had, again, all these fantastic pieces of art, and one of the designs was really interesting, it really stood out, which was this kind of aesthetic that had a veil over Savathun's face. And the imagery was a little bit too bright for the Witch Queen, but ultimately it led us to this place where we were adding these wraps of cloth that sort of flow behind her from her forwards. And it's almost as if it implies that she carries her hair and knowledge with her at all times. A part of the veil design that actually did sort of make it was a change to the state of Savathun's face, which was ultimately something that was having a sense of agreement on completely covered and face. And this was actually one of those really interesting moments because it gave Savathun this place where you can't ever really see her expression. But that's important because it kind of feeds into the idea that she's always capable of deception. Of course, we use the expressions on people's faces and we use that to gauge where they are and tell whether someone's lying. But if Savathun's face is constantly covered, you can't tell if she's lying. You can't tell when the deception's coming. And so it leaves just her eyes visible. And they really stand out from the silhouette as the result. And it creates this really menacing vision when Savathun is just in the dark and the only thing you can see are a pair of really distinctive eyes. Wait, she has 3 eyes. You know what? I'm just going to leave that in.
Whoa. Might want to pick up your phone before you pick that up. You hit a gas line with that, and it's going to cost you. Call 811 before you dig. One call, that's all. And it's the law.
Like this is even possible is because of you guys, and especially those of you who are supporting through the Patreon. I think it's really fair to say that the Patreon in the last few years hasn't really received the attention that it should have, but those of you that have been patiently and passionately continuing to give over the last few years and months have helped to fund everything that you're seeing right now. In the next few months, we'll be looking to kick back into a more operational state for the Patreon, and as we continue down this path, I hope that some of the fruits of that labor will start to be seen. The Dev Diaries are all going to be published here on YouTube, of course, but we're going to be uploading some of them early to Patreon so that those of you who are helping to fund this project can get an idea of what you're actually looking at and what your funding is paying for. And hopefully that's going to be a great incentive for some of you guys, especially if you're supporting at the higher tiers. I think it's also worth noting that the Patreon is going to be at the forefront of our focus, and that's now much more possible. To be honest, back in the old days, there was a lot of stuff that was getting in the way, but now I have much more of a support network in place where I can actually do things that I want with the channel. You know, back in the day, if I was doing daily content, I would have burned out very easily in the space of months, and you guys have been with me through those various different journeys, but now the channel is in a different place. We have the consistent support of a pair of editors, and soon we'll be a manager for the Patreon so that we can keep on going. And really, these things in place, we're going to be able to take Patreon. There's not only work that you guys want to support, but also is a functional vehicle to create the content that you guys want to see on the channel in the future. There are a lot of other people we need to talk about when it comes to talking about all the work that has been put into this project. We haven't even touched on the voice acting team, which Moonval has been leading the charge on as far as organisation goes. We haven't talked about sound design, which England is going to be helping us out with in some capacity. And there's so much more we need to talk about the art animation of the project. Then talk about the inspiration and the design concepts that went into the different monsters and aliens that you see throughout Books of Sorrow and throughout this project. But also, we need to talk about the animation stuff, because the physics and learning from the someone called Neil, who actually created their own fan-made Witch Queen OST and generously allowed us to use it for Dynasty. It was so fantastic that I actually became a live soundtrack for this project. It makes me really excited that you guys get to hear tell this epic story set to this amazing soundtrack. There's so many different elements to this project, and we're going to be able to touch on them all in future Dev Diaries.
6 more. This is actually some element. Look forward to it. I wish I could find it. No way in hell I get that mine.
It's all or nothing.
I could have been killing him to get it? Really? Are you fucking serious? I could have just been farming his bitch assness. Actually, there's some shit I want to watch on
Hey,
this
it's
channel.
me, your skin. I crave being done with acne, but treating leaves me red.
In the cycles of the universe, endings are beginnings. You are a warrior in a cosmic war between light and dark. We call ourselves guardians. We call ourselves light bearers. And we are, mostly. But have you ever imagined for but a moment that the basis of knowledge that you understand about this universe in which we struggle is in fact incomplete? It is this more complete truth that guides me now. A truth that you will take. A truth that you must learn. Abandon all pretenses of your frail human morality. Accept for but a moment what the universe is true. You know it because you enact it every day, even if you are not willing to admit it. The universe is a place where struggle exists to challenge life. Life and those endowed with it contribute to that struggle, and so they present a challenge of survival. It is in this place that existence allows the dominant to thrive above others. If you know this to be true, do not lie to me. We've all crushed a spider beneath our boots without a second thought, and the spider has spun silk cells for moths which enter into its web. It is the natural order of the universe to kill. It is inescapable. This is the truth that none wish to acknowledge, but it is the same truth that governs the foundations of reality. The traveler might have taught that life and complexity can exist in harmonious decay. It is a foolish thing to believe. Does life not brush away the dead skin from its arm without a thought to the dead cells that now lie in their billions and their feet? No. Where life exists, so must death. Death is their dominion and our test. And should we prevail, we will become its reapers, its ascendant doomsayers, its champions. To be tested is not easy, but if you are to even reach this moment of metamorphosis, you must open your mind to the truth and embrace the ecthesis of your former ignorant self. Slough away the skin and find that there is more beneath than you could have possibly imagined. The presumptuous forerunner Toland was once your guide. But this time, his meandering madness shall not lead you into delusion. I shall be as Virgil, and you shall be as Dante. Together we will chant these hells and understand that they are in fact the furnaces of that most majestic thing the universe can create. Power. So come now and listen as I tell you the story of the darkness.
Today is the day to grab a Groupon experience that grabs your soul.
You must understand that the oldest time is often the least understood. The beginning is so important, and yet it seems so easily misunderstood because so few were there to tell of it. The tale of the entity known as the Darkness was told to us through many sources. Principally, though, through the knowledge of those that came before our time. But the origin of the story that we need to tell is one that can only be told by two, the two who were there at the genesis of all things. Today, you might know them as Light and Dark, as Traveler and Pyramid. But for this tale, they were better known by their supposed original approximations of what could be considered names or titles. In other words, you would know them better as the Gardener and the Winnower. This story was recounted to us by the communications received by both you and Eris Morn. That strange artifact that was found deep in the Pyramid of Luna, that was its source. When you slew the sanctified mind in the Black Garden, it began to sing to you in the shadows. It sent you messages, and those messages were from the Winnower itself. Though the story it told us is one of the first accounts of what one might call Genesis, trust not perhaps the Winnower's words, but instead examine its actions. The darkness may have reason to lie, but regardless, if this tale is true, it is utterly fascinating. The darkness asked us to imagine the horror of a world where nothing dies, where time left the living to decay without hope of release from the claws of existence. This is the Passacaglia of its persuasion, that death is a part of the universe's natural laws, laws that were first enshrined in the garden before time began. This garden was in fact not a garden. It was a field of possibilities upon which whole worlds could be built, where they could blossom and grow. It was primordial beyond primordial. It predated existence. It was a place where and when time had not yet begun. Within this place, an order of sorts arose between two power-causal entities that existed under the weight of universal necessity. They were because they were, and they had no ancestors or cause. They were as gods within this place, which is to say that they were the levers upon which the world turned. Within this place of primordial beginnings blossomed a tree of silver wings, which bore fruit and shed its feathered leaves in perpetuity. The metaphorical day saw the gardener, the one who seeded life, planting that seed within the soils of that place and seeing what would grow. The brief night would see the winnower's work done as it separated the grain from the chaff, dividing what was strong enough to live from what was weak enough to die. Between the morning and the night, in the evenings of this primordial place, the winnower and the gardener played a game of great possibilities. The winnower described the game of possibilities to us using a simple game with only 4 rules concerning the opening and closing of flowers in sequences and patterns. However, the game did in fact govern life and sequences that blossomed within the primordial space of the garden. The sequences were complex and could contain the intricacy of worlds within them, but ultimately they always returned to the same dominant pattern, and in time, the gardener grew angry. The similarity of the patterns was seen as a source of boredom by the gardener, who railed against them. The patterns cut off entire spaces of possible life and prevented it from ever coming to pass. In the analogy of the game of flowers, the gardener kicked earth onto a flower with its trowel, closing it. The winnower was the one to close flowers, and they were unmoved by this development, even as the flower opened and corrected itself, obeying the rules of the game. Know then that this was not a flower closed by mud, but instead was a force of life. It could have been a planet, a galaxy, a system, a family, a mother, a universe. Who knows what this flower might represent? But the gardener tried to close it, and the pattern would not allow it. In a bit of frustration, the gardener stated that a new rule was required. The winnower inquired as to what this rule might be, and the gardener replied that it should be a rule that rewarded steering away from the same pattern of gridlock and to build new structures within the game. This rule would reward those who exploited the undiscovered spaces of life and found strength there. The winnower rose in some anger at this idea, for they saw that the current pattern was dominant and believed that the universe would ultimately still trend towards that final perfect shape.
It protested against the gardener and stated that it would only create false cysts of hope within the universe, where new life would at first flourish, but would never truly find the strength to overcome the inevitable pattern of the universe. The darkness feared for all those that would now suffer and scream anew in these places where life would now exist where it should not, where life would now exist and perish. The gardener insisted that it would become part of the great game, so that it could become this new rule and make it so. Thus, both gardener and winnower entered the great game and found that they could influence its rules. The gardener and the winnower had their stated objectives, and they were cast in opposition to each other. It was at this moment that the winnower looked down and saw within its hands what it described as the first knife. At this moment, the winnower and the gardener fought. The struggle between the two titanic forces was enough to breathe life into creation itself, from a place where time and space had not yet begun. The winnower and the gardener fought with such ferocity that they brought down the tree of silver wings, leaving it to smoke in the ash of what it had once been. Its stump was left to smolder and burn, and the gardener and the winnower left the proof of their conflict as disturbances within the earth. The disturbances of the gardener and the winnower birthed the first stars and galaxies, and their trembling feet pushed life out into the universe and brought it to exist. And in the end, the darkness won. The winnower always triumphed, because the gardener always stopped to offer peace. Regardless, it was too late for the winnower to change anything now. The conflict in the garden had seen the cosmos spawned and time begun. The game of flowers within the garden had ended, and the cosmos's rules were in place. The gardener and the winnower took their place within the cosmos and became as the rules that they championed, each with the paracausal ability to influence the universe and to bend or even break its rules. The patterns that were once certain within the flower game were now muddied, and it was unclear if they would ever be victors within the cosmos. To this day, the winnower and the gardener still fight to determine what will succeed and what will not. For the garden is now no longer the space within which they can play and determine the rules of existence. Now they battle within the cosmos, and they battle for the fate of all things. This strange tale of a time before time is one that we should always look to with some skepticism. There are, after all, only two beings that would be capable of confirming such a tale, and only one of them thus far has spoken to us. But as best we can tell, this is where the origins of all things began, and more importantly perhaps, where the darkness found strength. From the extraordinary tale of the world before Genesis, we learned of the potential origins of the darkness and the light. These actors would make their place known throughout the universe, and as they continued to fight, as they played their game of existence and flowed across the stars in conflict after conflict, they made allies. Our earliest records recovered from enemy intelligence, specifically the Hive, shows that even in these ancient times, what must have been millions if not billions of years ago, there was interference from the dark and the light. They were seen in the earliest times noted in the Books of Sorrow, when Oryx was still known as Aurix, and when the Hive was still known as the Krill. The travelers sat and saw their first conquest beyond what could be tentatively called their homeworld. It was on the 52nd moon of Fundament that Aurix, Shihuarath, and Savathun rose with the 5 worm gods to strike down the Ammonite and the Leviathan. The traveler fled
as did the osmium traitor mother, Teox. And so it was that the seeds of the metamorphosis of the hive were planted, and soon they would bloom. The light bore witness that day to practitioners of the sword logic, of its enemy's sure and perfect pattern. The Traveler was proven wrong time and again, and it witnessed its own adherents, from the Ammonite to the free races of Fundament to the mighty Leviathan, crushed. But perhaps the darkness also bore witness to this moment, and saw the beginnings of something that one day could be majestic. In time, Ulrix and his siblings would find themselves in a terrible place of danger. They were faced with the potential annihilation of their people. They faced a war against an enemy known as the Ecumene, who had conducted themselves in a manner that was geared best for survival. Upon detecting the threat of the Hive, they had dedicated the many varied strengths of their entire empire towards destroying their adversary. And what's more, it was working. As the siblings gathered in Ulrix's throne world, they attempted to divine solutions to the problem before them. 3 stepped into that throne world, but only Ulrix left, having killed his sisters and claimed their power. This was the way of the sword, to take something and become stronger because of it. With that power, he confronted Akka, the great hive god, the worm of secrets. He did battle with the worm, his god, and slew him upon his own sword. With this, Ulrix took the secret of communing with the deep, the metaphorical name that had been given to the darkness by the hive. Ulrix carved that secret upon a series of tablets known as the Tablets of Ruin, and went down into the deep to commune with the darkness itself. What was said between the king of the hive and the Winnower is a secret known only to them. But when Ulrix emerged, he emerged with the power to take, to corrupt an enemy with darkness and enslave them to his command, to turn his enemy's strength into a poison that already flowed within their veins as blood. He was now a champion of the darkness, a priest of its design, a practitioner of the logic of the sword. And his name would now be Oryx, the Taken King. This, however, would not be the only time that Oryx would commune with the darkness. We know, according to the Books of Sorrow, that he at one point took part in a ceremony where the deep was able to inhabit, if only briefly, the body of an unborn ogre. He strode out into the abyss, calling out to the deep and saying, "I can see you in the sky. You are the waves which are battle, and the battles are the waves. Come into this vessel I have prepared for you." And so it arrived, the deep itself. As best we know, this is the first moment at which the darkness interacted with one of its followers. But considering the scope and magnitude of the universe, and the fact that the Books of Sorrow was the oldest and only ancient record of this time we have, it's hard to confirm this. Regardless, Oryx summoned forth the darkness to manifest itself within the unborn ogre. It was that which was formless, and yet for this moment it took form. It spoke to Oryx, and its words, recorded almost jovially, are as follows. "Oryx, my king, my friend. Kick back, relax, shrug off that armor, set down that blade. Roll your burdened shoulders and let down your guard. This is a place of life, a place of peace. Out in the world we ask a simple, true question. A question like, can I kill you? Can I rip your world apart? Tell me the truth, for if I don't ask, someone will ask it for me. And they call us evil. Evil. Evil means socially maladaptive. We are adaptiveness itself. Oryx, how do we explain it to them? The world is not built on the laws they love. not on friendship, but on mutual interest, not on peace, but on victory by any means. The universe is run by extinction, by extermination, by gamma-ray bursts, burning up 1,000 garden worlds, by howling singularities, eating up infant suns. And if life is to live, if anything is to survive through the end of all things, it will live not by the smile, but by the sword. Not in a soft place, but in a hard hell. Not in the rotting bog of artificial paradise, but in the cold, hard, self-verifying truth of that one arbiter, the only judge, the power that is its own metric and its own source, existence at any cost. Strip away the lies and truces and delaying tactics they call civilization, and this is what remains. This beautiful shape. The fate of everything is made like this, in the collision, the test of one praxis against another. This is how the world changes. One way meets a second way, and they discharge their weapons, they exchange their words and markets, they contest, and in doing so they petition each other for the right to go on being something instead of nothing. This is the universe figuring out what it should be in the end. And it is majestic. Majestic. It is the only thing that can be true in and of itself. And it is what I am. As if to demonstrate this point, it seems that the darkness showed Oryx a vision of his younger self when he was Alrash, the eldest of the 3 daughters of the Osmium King. In the vision, Oryx saw his younger self walking to her father's orrery. She was pursued by her siblings, and so ran to what she thought was safety, before being tripped up by her father. The Osmium King accosted Orash for her foolishness to believe that she was ever safe. Orash saw the glint of her teeth in her father's goggles and began to consume him, devouring his arms, legs, and eyes. As she did this, her father laughed, saying, "Good, good. This is majestic and true." It seems perhaps that the purpose of this vision was to show Oryx that there was no such thing as safe, and that there was only the single majestic truth, that one must always kill or be killed in this dark, unforgiving cosmos. The darkness demonstrated to Oryx that his siblings were about to betray him, and it demonstrated to him that the true way of the darkness was always to be the test against which strong life could be weighed. In his time as a god of the Hive, Oryx found many of those that he faced wanting in the face of the darkness's test. The Ammonite, Kugan, Ecumene, Tai, Vex, Harmony, Elixir. These are only some of the countless civilizations that Oryx must have put to the sword, and left as ash beneath the feet of his thrall. He was unmatched as a chosen champion of the darkness's logic, a champion of the sword. Until, that is, he came to Sol. Guardians made their own fate as he made his, and the Guardians were powerful enough to slay even the lord of the Osmium dynasty. But Oryx was not the first of the agents of the darkness to reach Sol. The darkness itself was lying in wait, right beneath our feet, all this time, waiting for its moment to strike. The revelations of this were born out of the Golden Age, and were discovered by humanity beneath the cold surface of the ocean. Would it seem strange to you if I told you that the darkness had been watching us this whole time? Would it perhaps shock you, or would you be unimpressed? The answer to either of those is yes. Then you clearly fail to understand the scope of the foe we face. This news should frighten you. It should drive you to the deepest fear of your core. The darkness is not limited by the laws of the universe, and if its words are to be believed, then it is older than time itself. So perhaps you should hold your gasps of shock when I tell you the first of the entities to arrive in Sol was not the traveler burning its golden age by the wave of eudaimonia that followed. It was the darkness that arrived first, and it would be discovered by humanity in the days when it was still poorly understood, when humanity still saw the universe as a positive sum game on a cosmic scale. They knew nothing of slaughter, nothing of the sword, but they would soon learn. The encounter with the darkness that occurred in the Golden Age was that of the recovery of a strange artifact known as the Anomaly, and the subsequent events that unfolded after this moment. The events took place within the facilities of the First Light lunar installation under what was known as the K-1 project. K-1 was a joint venture between the Clovis Bray Corporation and China's Aerospace Authority, who both sought to study the artifact in question. The artifact is a black sphere with a deceptively smooth surface. Beneath this thin, shining veneer, the object was massive, weighing approximately 23 sextillion kilograms. More fascinating than the mass and density of the object were the effects that it had on those in proximity. Effects ranging from insomnia and hallucinations to full-blown psychosis. The mental degradation of the teams working on the K-1 project was clear for all to see, and documentation on the matter of this degradation is therefore hard to fully understand. It is by its very nature filled with the enlightened or maddened visions of those The project's link with Clovis Bray meant that they insisted on installing an artificial intelligence within the K-1 facilities. This AI was known as Firewall, and it was responsible for site monitoring and security. The leader of the project was one Commander Huang Zhuan, whose encounter with the strange object left her touched and challenged to her core. The entire story is not clear, but what parts of it we do know are at our disposal thanks to the relaying of Firewall's information to Rasputin and the logs left behind by the commander. To understand more about the corrupting influence of the anomaly, which was also known as the article, also PNA-1, we need to first understand those human subjects that it corrupted. The greatest point of reference for this is Huang Chuan, who trained rigorously in philosophical and academic matters until the age of at least 60, which to us would be old, but in the golden age was about a fifth of a human being's potential lifespan. She was at about 40, and at the beginning of her time in the K-1 facilities, she was sure and certain of her place in the cosmos. Soon the article was unearthed, and the study of the anomaly began. With this, changes slowly began to take over the commander and the other members of the crew. At first, the commander started to question why the discovery should be kept secret, which was part of the conditional agreement between Clovis Bray and the Chinese Aerospace Authority. She saw the anomaly as a great potential beacon of progress, which might have come from the traveler. Dr. Tannis, one of the facility's staff, stated that it might in fact be a transceiver that was receiving a signal from the traveler's home. Look thought that Clovis Bray might be keeping this potential discovery from the rest of humanity without effect on Clovis. She would slowly miss her meditations, a typical practice for her and her Buddhist ways. One entry later, and the whole crew were reporting insomnia, which originally was suspected to be as a result of their proximity to the anomaly. This suspicion was of course correct, the K1 team could not possibly gauge the malice of the object that was causing their distress. The insomnia worsened into nightmares with a PTSD-inducing effect. In the face of this, many would have refused to push forward without significant changes or attempts at mitigation of these terrible effects. But the commander kept pressing forward. In her mind, she saw the suffering that she and her team were undergoing as meaningless in the face of what they could potentially gain. Dr. Bow, the site physician, recommended 30-minute shifts for crew members to study the article before they were rotated out. Commander Kwang instated 2-hour shifts instead, and asked for Dr. Bow's relief on the next rotation to Earth. At this point, she was forsaking saying the 21 Taras of her faith almost entirely, leaving behind Buddhism in pursuit of what she believed to be a higher ideal. The two scientists, known as Yan and being in proximity to it. It was at this point the Kwangs suspected Clovis Bray might soon seize the anomaly for containment under their closer watch. Kwang suspected Firewall of being compromised and reporting all their progress back to Clovis Bray. Indeed, Firewall was filing consistent reports of abnormal effects near the artifact, reports that ended up in the hands of the Warmight Rasputin. By the time of Dr. Bow's dismissal and the return of the commander from Earth, she felt that she had found clarity on the mission. She now believed that her duty and purpose was to embrace the study of the artifact and refused to surrender to the fear and anxiety that it caused. She saw these side effects as merely a weakness of the human condition that had not been adjusted to the wider universe and the empirical nature of its being. She believed that the crew could transcend their suffering if they merely embraced it and understood the true nature of the artifact. Sometime soon after her return, she saw her first dark visitor, a long, shadowy presence near the end of her bed as she tried to sleep. Taller than a human, shadowy and formless, and with a presence of hatred and disdain that even in her state of rigidity, Kwang could feel. The new site physician, Dr. Henson, simply believed it to be a side effect of sleep paralysis. But of course, she was gravely mistaken. Yan and Loftus had begun work on a device called the antenna that could replicate the transceiver signal of the artifact as a redundancy. This appealed to the commander, who had grown more and more suspicious of her Clovis Bray counterparts. The new device would allow the team to continue their study, even if Clovis Bray took possession of the anomaly. The suspicions of the commander were confirmed, considering that soon Alton Bray arrived, and upon inspecting the antenna that had been installed to Site 2, decided that direct access to the anomaly was no longer necessary for the team's work. In her personal logs, the commander accused them of stealing the artifact, showing her and her team's attachment to it, and how it bordered on obsession. Kwang focused and recentered herself, meditating as she did once before. This time, instead of clarity, however, she was visited by another of the dark specters. It appeared to offer her doubt, which blossomed into purpose. She believed that the discoveries of the anomaly were too important to be sequestered away from the access of the many, for simply an access of a chosen few instead. She devised a plan by which her whole team would continue their work at Site 2, and more troubling perhaps, she began to doubt her faith in the intrinsic good of the universe. The specters and the anomaly were slowly starting to undo her. As time went on, the scientists made more and more excursions and discovered a great many things that could be classed as scientific or simply universal breakthroughs. Knowledge poured forth from the antenna at Site 2 thanks to these intellectual excursions, and the scientists began to swim within the sea of discovery that lay before them. They originally only listened to the audio of the antenna, but over time, it was discovered that some could commune with what was found in the antenna in more ways than simply listening to the signal. It could be manipulated to display the data in any way that was desired. Audio, haptic input, hallucinatory video, ambient EM exposure, and even exposure to one's gene regulation were all methods by which the K1 team interacted with the signal from the antenna, the signal that the artifact was bouncing back. One night, as madness began to consume her, Commander Kwan retook her final assessments for the Sukabao establishment in which she had been educated and trained. The test was one of morality and ethical rigor, and where before she had passed, she had a new belief, and she believed it and her to be correct. She began to direct herself away from her old beliefs and towards a new ideal, that obstacles to enlightenment had to be forcefully removed at any cost. Her final 3 entries show a disturbing turn of events. They read as follows. Entry 21. I realized yesterday, as if struck by a thunderbolt, that I must meditate in communion with the antenna. Entry 22. It is lonely. It is impossibly, inexpressibly sad, beyond the capacity of the human limbic system to experience. But it is content in its loneliness, and in its beautiful sadness. It is the light of the first sunrise after your lover leaves forever. It is the acceptance before death. Transcendence lies not in the denial of attachments and limitations, but in the complete understanding of our confinement and the tautological tyranny of existence. The final stage of Buddhism cannot be attained. There is no escape from samsara, for it is as closed as a lock. Heaven is invaded, and its territories are afire, and all its mountains have been shattered into thrones. This is the inevitable perfect shield of the truth. It is magnificent, majestic. Entry 23. When I remove myself from the moment and consider our behavior, our cultish isolation and secrecy, our fixation upon the antenna and the source of meaning and purpose in our lives, I see an expedition compromised by the noetic effects of an alien object. Why do I not abort the investigation and return to Earth? Because the most powerful noetic influence in the universe, the true coin that all deception and deceit must counterfeit, is the truth. Everything we have been granted here is true. That is why we behave as if we are compromised by an alien influence. Revelation is the most powerful influence of all. There is no veil over our lives. We see clearly now. I have almost realized the next step of my journey. When you have nothing, you are capable of everything. The record seems to end here, with only one entry in angry, desperate handwriting remaining. Next to it are the telltale scrawls of pyramid-like shapes and great splotches of ink. The final words in the logs of Commander Kwan, who now appears to have fully given in to the darkness's corruption, were simply, "She will bow to me." Firewalls have been picking up on these strange events, and have been slowly monitoring and increase the exotic, noetic, and psychological effects on the crew. Danger was detected. At a certain point, one of the crew members, known as Jun Han, broke a quarantine that had been put in place by Commander Kwan. After being returned to the K1 logistics brig, some members of the crew, including Captain Ho Ye and Dr. Luli Henson, discussed what Jun Han had said. She had spoken about seeing that everyone on the surface was dead. With a little direction from Firewall, Junhan, Huo Yi, and Luli Henson all ventured out onto the surface to investigate the fate of the crew above ground. The commander had originally put the quarantine into place, suspecting industrial sabotage on the part of Clovis Bray after the disappearance of another crew member, known as Dr. Yanoi. Now the team of 3 were breaking quarantine and committing an act of mutiny by investigating what caused the reported death of everyone on the surface. Their plan was to look for survivors, figure out what happened, transmit what they found and Firewall's data stack back to Rasputin, and then escape. Firewall interrupted them and at first made it clear that they should reprioritize the order of their mission, and that they should transmit his stack first, then escape before searching for survivors or investigating what happened. In a flurry, Firewall began to receive data and quickly revised its orders to the team, saying that they should transmit him first, then look for survivors, then escape, then investigate what happened. Then a third recalculation. Firewall this time, to the alarm of the trio, stated that they should merely transmit his stack and then escape, forgetting about looking for the crew or investigating what had happened. Eventually, Firewall devolved and repeatedly insisted that the only thing they should do was transmit his data stack, which prompted the team to flee, and the AI was left to repeat the phrase "transmit" over and over again in its comms. What happened next is unclear, but troubling. In its final monitoring logs sent to Rasputin, Firewall perceived that something terrible occurred that led to a catastrophic event in the K1 facilities. At K1 Sites 1, 2, 3, and 4, respectively known as crew quarters, communion, system core, and logistics, Firewall's sensors and terminal inputs became damaged. Eventually, Firewall's entire sensorium was damaged beyond use, and all its terminals were rendered inoperable. Only a barricade at Site 3 continued to hold. What happened is only made clear by the final recording made by Firewall. In this recording, the personnel known as Giorgio Vital, Amanda Smith, and Rav Rahul attempted to find refuge behind Firewall's barricade, but Firewall resisted. The entry reads as follows. Record 0016L972 Luna 3.069. Identities: Giorgio Vital, Dr. Amanda Smith, Rav Rahul. Location: K1 Dig Site 3, System Core. Threat detected: Level 13610. Extinction event: confirmed exotic, psychosis, protocol incompliance. Threat response: error. Damage assessment: Site 3, barricade holding. Firewall, let us in. Damage assessment: Site 3, barricade holding. Firewall, there's things out here. They're killing everyone. Open the door, you damn machine. Threat assessment: assessed. Result: quota exceeded. Damage assessment: Site 3, barricade holding. Stop, they'll hear us. Shh, quiet. Silence then ensues for 2 minutes and 36 seconds before. Firewall, we made a mistake. Yeah, we're sorry. Just let... What was that? Silence then ensues for a further 47 seconds before conversation resumes. Just let us in. If you let us into the vault, we might be able to hold out. Threat assessment assessed. Result: quota exceeded. Negative. Shh! Firewall, lower your volume. Negative. Survival impossible. Shh! Impossible? What does it mean, impossible? No rescue. Shh! No escape. Shh! Quiet! No sustenance. Stop, just stop. Shush! Psychological dangers include, but are not limited to, they're coming. Known psychosis, recent psychological trauma, and existential collapse. They're almost here. We gotta go. Existential collapse, what does it mean? No time, come on. The end of all things. Silence then resumed for another 49 seconds. And then in the background, distant screaming could be heard. Whatever occurred in the K1 facilities, the Hand of Darkness seemed to have a part in it. Whatever killed the crew of the K1 project did not care for their survival. And whatever the anomaly might have been, it still lies, caged within its Clovis Bray-designed containment housing, at the center of what is now the Crucible Arena bearing its name. Rasputin has heavily discouraged all attempts to access the dodecahedron at the central chamber of this facility, responding with warsats aimed directly at Guardians who interact with it. Regardless, the anomaly still lies in wait, and the signal which it received may have in fact made its way to our system now. It is more than likely that the corrupting signal was the influence of the pyramids lying in wait, out beyond our system. And their wrath would soon arrive. Their wrath would come with the collapse. From the golden age of mankind, there was one inevitability, that all things. The Elixni had suffered through a similar event in their time, though the whisperings of this whirlwind and speak in little detail. Perhaps this is always how it will be, with the survivors of knowledge and attempting to claw their way back to some semblance of civilization. Humanity also failed to keep many records of its collapse. But according to our ghost, the accounts of the event all agree on one thing. On the first day, darkness covered the earth. On the second day, the Traveler fell. But the collapse was not an event bound strictly to the people of Earth alone. It saw calamitous circumstances all throughout the system of Sol. There are, however, 5 tales that are worthy of your time and understanding if one wishes to know as much about the Darkness's role in the collapse as possible. 5 events that not only tell us of the terrible tragedy that befell Earth and its colonies, but also 5 events that are, in their own ways, close to some of the only records that we have of these times. And therefore, the accuracy of these accounts is not truly verified. The first of these tales is the Darkness's conquest of Titan and how it shattered the arcologies of Saturn's jewel. The second is the creation of the Awoken and the clash between light and dark that spawned the great singularity where the Distributory would be founded. The third is the short account of one of the 7 Seraphs, Rasputin's agents, who saw the Traveler return to Earth from Io. The fourth is the account of a member of the Black Armory's family who survived within a sealed bunker that was momentarily breached. And the fifth is an excerpt from the Journal of Cade 6, which seems to have witnessed the moment of the Darkness's almost complete triumph over mankind. We begin out in the farthest reaches of human-occupied space, on Titan's new Pacific arcology. The teams there sounded a general evacuation of the entire population of the arcologies. The reason for this alarm was the appearance of a sudden gravitational anomaly at a single point on Titan. Titan was being pulled from a spheroid shape into more of an ovoid shape. The force of this, had it continued, would have cracked the moon in 2 as it stood. But the Darkness is never so imprecise, though the magnitude of its plans is not something to be understated. Instead, the gravitational force, after a certain amount of time, dissipated, and the storm surge beneath the gravitational anomaly at this point had reached well over 150 feet. A massive wave of methane, 50 meters high, then began to spread out over the world, with a shockwave of kinetic energy preceding it. The arcologies were shattered, and the waves rolled over the world, engulfing those that lived upon its surface. All that remained were the ruins of humanity's jewel within the stars, along with the telltale signs of sterile neutrinos. Out even further in the system, however, there was an event that brought with it both destruction and creation. The interaction with the darkness occurred aboard the Exodus program vessel known as Yang Wei, or Exodus Green. The commander of the vessel was tasked with taking her crew out beyond the borders of known human space. They would not make it that far, though. A gravitational mass stalked them out in the distant reaches of space, and slowly it began to close in on them. The ship hailed the mysterious anomaly, but it did little to avert their fate. Exodus Green was suddenly caught in a gravitational field of sorts that slowly but surely began to tear the ship apart and its crew, atom by atom. The crew voted to continue heading out into the darkness of space and to leave Earth behind. And so, a message was beamed to the aggressor demanding that Yang Wei and its crew should be treated as a separate species from Earth. What happens next is unclear, but what we do know is that there was a massive conflict of sorts between light and dark, where the very fabric of the universe was shredded and buckled. A singularity formed, and the Yang Wei and its crew fell through to what would one day be known as the Distributory. Mara Sov was the first to cross the event horizon of the singularity. She would be the first of a new people known as the Awoken, born from both light and dark. The third event took place on Earth and saw the travelers' arrival from Io as it fled to our little blue world. It was witnessed by a 7th Seraph member. The Seraph in question was First Lieutenant Artur Voronin. He was ordered by Rasputin to manually carry munitions in preparation for something. In the process of doing this, a terrible storm broke out, and the lieutenant was forced to take cover as the inclement weather included localized lightning strikes in close proximity to his position. Perhaps this is the day in which the world went dark, for it was only as he approached a shelter that was attempting to harbor civilians that he saw the traveler overhead, acting as an eye to the storm as it moved. The traveler was, however, unmoved by Voronin's dutiful actions as he attempted to save one of his compatriots. It kept moving, making its way to the place where it would do battle with the darkness. It would stop above the place that would one day become the last city. One of the stranger records of the collapse and the darkness that consumed humanity comes from the Black Armory. Their members included its 3 founders, were holed up in one of their facilities, attempting to keep whatever was outside at bay. There was a constant howling outside of their bunker, which was always loudest during the nights. One night, something began to pound against the bunker walls. They did not hold. The Black Armory papers tell us little of the aggressor. Henrietta Meran, who wrote them, did not see the aggressor herself, but she perceived a smell of wet earth and a sound that she had never heard before, like a machine being stretched and then compressed. Whatever the thing was that attacked the Black Armory families, it seemed to be unnatural, and perhaps some would even say evil. Henrietta Meran lost one of her fellow founding sisters, Helga Rasmussen, and her own daughter, Adelaide Meran, to this beast. Although Adelaide's consciousness was not completely gone, later it was possible for her to be transferred and uploaded into an exo-body to live again as Ada 1. Whilst there is nothing that allows us to confirm the nature of the creature, the very idea that it sounded like metal being stretched and then compressed draws us back to the idea of the darkness's gravitational powers, the ability to pull apart anything that is a foe and then to compress it back together, just like it did to Yang Wei. It's not confirmed, but if this is the case, then perhaps this gives us an idea of what the mysterious nature of the darkness's forces was like during the collapse. The last of the records that we know of from the collapse came from the Journal of Cade 6. The journal entry was made after Cade had transitioned to a post-human life as an exo. The records are of a strange nature and demonstrate the fragility of an exo's memory after they've been rebooted multiple times. Cade begins telling us the memory of a hunt for a wizard on the moon, and then his memory transitions to something which I can only assume is a moment in which the darkness claimed some form of victory before being defeated by the Traveler. The record reads as follows. Bounties up on the board. Hive target, real mean SOB. You know the deal. These horrors live on for just about forever. Only I don't count what they do as living. They lurk around in the shadows for centuries, hoarding knowledge and conjuring up thousands of ways to chew up light and life. Doesn't matter much. I've learned a few tricks myself. Fast forward a spell, I'm in the guts of it. Deep, dark cavern, deep below the surface. Can't tell exactly where or when. EDZ maybe? Doesn't matter. In any case, I'm right where I need to be. Tucked into a shadow, camo cloak humming to keep me well out of sight. Right place, right time. Bam. I dart out from cover. Cloak flaring. Out from underneath, I lunge, lifting my hand cannon. It barks out orders. Bathes the room in firelight. The bullets are true. They always are. 3 Thrall turn to ash before they know what hit them. Now it's just me and the target. Big bad bounty. I'm ready to collect. My blade gleams in the sick green terror of his eyes. Strike that. This is all wrong. Timeline's way off. Realigning. There's no bounty. No hive. I'm out in plain sight. Sky is torn open. And there's nothing, and nobody left in this ruined world but me and the boiling shadow all around. Whatever it is hits me before I can level my gun. Doesn't matter. Tendrils of pain crawl over my splayed fingers, my outstretched arms, my shoulders, my neck, my screaming mouth as it consumes. I'm being enveloped. Everything is wrong. Primordial. My system goes sideways. All but my senses. It wants me to witness this. The world. Its world now. Suffocating in the black poison. I collapse. We all collapse. Perhaps it is best for us to take heart in the knowledge that nothing is invincible, as demonstrated when the Traveler cast the darkness out of Sol. But the days of the collapse have long passed, and as humanity grew in power once again, so did the Guardians, so did the Traveler, and so did the darkness once again. The Spectre has returned, and this time, it is wiser for its loss. It will not be bargained with. It will not lose out again. And when darkness covers the system this time, things will be different. As they should be. Time heals all wounds, they say. But if one is to gouge and scratch at the scabs, a wound will stay open and bleed anew. After the collapse, the Traveler remained dormant, wounded from its climactic battle with the darkness. The scars it bore from this conflict were far from healed, and it would not heal soon if the darkness could help it. The Great Pyramids had retreated, but in a place not known or seen, their dark influence would begin to creep back into the world, and the wounds of the Traveler would be plied open once more, like the bark on a birch, exposing the sap beneath to new, clawing hands. The place the darkness now inhabited was known as the Black Garden, a place inhabited by a great deal of life and a great deal of evil. Its overseers are the Vex, more specifically, the Vex of the Soul Divisive. The Black Garden exists out of time and out of space, and the Vex of the Soul Divisive keep it this way to safeguard their stewardship of it. It is unknown when the Dark Heart manifested itself within the reaches of the garden, but it is known that the Vex of the Sol Divisive took the moment to make a calculation, and that calculation would bring them at odds with the rest of the subtypes of the Vex Collective. They saw the immense power before them, and that it could bend reality to its will. It was in this moment that they realized it was a power they could not surpass. Other Vex subtypes would move to counter similar enemies by manipulating some other paracausal force, like when Guardians were lured into freeing the Vex of the Vault of Glass from the Taken by using Praedyth's transmission. The Vex of the Sol Divisive were different. They would see an insurmountable obstacle, and would instead of fighting it, or finding some alternate way around it, bind themselves to it. The mathematical calculations of the Vex would lead them to a simple conclusion that they should join with a power that they could not defeat. They should join with the darkness to survive it. And so the Sol Divisive were empowered with a primordial darkness that can only be seen within the garden. But there was one who would see the path to undoing this shadow. Her existence was a rumor.